2009 attended a wedding of News International Chief Executive Rebecca Bush. The ceremony took place by the lake at a country estate. Sitting next to the presenter Pearson, while Paul Dyke, the Daily editor, was a few years away. Water was closer to Jackson David Cameron home Baptist Law, Gordon Brown, and Prime Minister Rob David, with all eyes turning to me as he walked down to the lake. At reception, I had a brief conversation with Mr. Cameron. I said I hoped he would not win the upcoming election, but that if we did and if we wanted to act political debate and standard, I would support him. For some time, the journalists in me had known that the relationship between politics and the media was not serving the public, but it was my first-hand experience to see develop cultural abuse and negativity that convinced me. Press and 24-hour news were making more difficult for the leader to govern. It's got worse, hasn't it? So I replied that he would be a much stronger prime minister were he to take office, not feeling he owed anything to the big miracles. At that point, Mr. Murdoch joined us and we changed the subject. Perhaps we should not have done so that we did, however, illustrated something of the dishonesty at the heart of what essential political and commercial relationships. It is not easy to do what Ed Miliband, Labour leader, did last week, make himself an enemy of some of the media's most powerful forces. He was right that Labour got too close to News International, but he was also right that given the media bias against it, he knew why we tried to level the playing fields. In my own defense, and as my diary shows, argued for some years with Tony Blair that we needed to act on cultural media. At one point, he tipped me off, asking that I not my views so obvious in front of Mr. Murdoch, his son James, and Lexington, then chief executive of News International. Ultimately, Mr. Blair thought the press had become a problem, but that given our other priorities, people would not understand our taking them on. He also thought it would look like revenge for the fact they had turned against us, and there were political considerations too. Trying to govern and win election is hard enough without the press being against you. Except that for all of us, at times media support was something we created at the expense of position of principle on media issues, but that trap has now been sprung. The latest revelation had forced the police, News International, and the government to act. The police will now be more vigorous. News International will continue with their kamikaze crisis management, which one day will be studied as a textbook case of how not to do it. But the most important developments are the Prime Minister during increase in the press practices and a new system of regulation. This means we now have once in a generation opportunity for a new settlement between politics and the media and the public. Nobody can argue that we have the press we deserve. Pressured by technological change, a dominant strain of media has gone into a spiral of decline, in which this scandal is only the most dramatic development. Mr. Cameron did not look comfortable announcing the reviews. He has personal relationship at stake, and given he hired Andy Carson as his communications director, his judgment is true. Already the backlash from part of the press has begun as seek to maintain that anything but two sloops of regulation is an assault on a free press. But Mr. Cameron must stand back from all that and ask himself what is the right thing to do. He did some of it last Friday. The judicial inquiry should be far-reaching. The news of the war is far from alone the usual dubious and illegal practices, as widely in a report from the Information Commissioner have shown. Powers of Britain's media reminds me of the trade union before Mrs. Thatcher. They feel untouchable. As I say above, Labour could and should have done more to deal with the fair beast. But just as the MP expenditure scandal emerged from the failure of Mrs. Thatcher's government to tackle MP salaries, so the system by which it showered honours on editors and owners, a practice to which you put an end with a rule that no serving editor could be honoured, means she too has something to answer for. Whatever the past, it is Mr. Cameron who must lead the country to a better place. Mr. Miliband has shown himself capable of playing a good and principled part, and so should the public. Ultimately, political debate will only improve if the public want it to. If they channel the anger at recent events into an assessment of what kind of paper they read, whether they really want to live on a diet of celebrity, trivia, negativity, and abuse, to coin a phrase, we are all in this together.